Born poor, retired at 38, his unbelievable story. The eviction notice was taped to the door with blue painter's tape. Marcus Webb stood in the hallway of the East Side Flats in Akron, Ohio, holding a bag of groceries, store-brand cereal, a half-gallon of milk, 2 cans of soup, and he read it twice. Not because he didn't understand the words, but because he was doing the math in his head, and the math kept coming out the same ugly number, 0. He was 23 years old. He owed $41,200 across 4 credit cards, a personal loan, and 2 months of back rent. And in his wallet was $11 and a library card. 15 years later, he would retire. For good. At 38. Marcus grew up in a house where money was never discussed. Not because it wasn't a problem, but because the problem was too loud to talk over. His mother, Denise, worked double shifts at a laundry service in Canton. His father left when Marcus was 6 and sent birthday cards until he was 9, then stopped. There was always food, but never enough of it. The heat sometimes went out in January. Marcus learned to sleep in his coat. He was sharp, though. Teachers noticed. He earned a partial scholarship to the University of Akron and studied accounting. Not because he loved numbers, but because he understood instinctively that numbers were the language of survival. He graduated in 2009, directly into the mouth of the worst job market in 70 years. The accounting firms weren't hiring. The banks were collapsing. He took a job at a big-box electronics store, making $13.40 an hour, and told himself it was temporary. Temporary became 2 years. To fill the gap between what he earned and what adulthood actually cost, Marcus did what millions of Americans did without thinking. He swiped. A card for the security deposit on his apartment. Another for the car repair when the transmission went. A third for the winter jacket, the new shoes for an interview. The dinners he charged because he didn't want his friends to know the refrigerator at home was empty by the 22nd of every month. He wasn't reckless. That's what haunted him most. He wasn't buying vacations or flat-screen televisions. He was buying groceries and keeping the lights on and pretending, just barely, that he was okay. By 23, the minimum payments alone consumed $620 a month. His take-home was $1,840. After rent, utilities, and the car insurance he needed to get to work, he had $190 left. For everything. For the entire month. He started setting his alarm for 4:47 a.m. so he could eat breakfast before work and avoid spending money on food during the day. He stopped going to the doctor. When a molar cracked in the winter of 2011, he let it go for 3 months, managing the pain with ibuprofen and whiskey. Not because he was dramatic, but because a root canal was $900 he simply did not have. His girlfriend at the time, a woman named Priya, asked him once why he flinched every time his phone rang. He told her it was nothing. It was collectors. 2 of them called before 8 a.m. One called on Christmas. He had memorized their numbers and let them roll to voicemail, then sat in the silence of his apartment listening to the playback. Robotic voices reading off balances he already knew by heart. The shame was its own kind of debt. It compounded. He stopped going to his cousin Damon's birthday dinners because he couldn't afford to split the bill. He skipped his college friend's wedding in Cleveland, a 90-minute drive, because he didn't have the gas money and couldn't bring himself to say that out loud. He became smaller, quieter. He worked overtime when it was offered and handed the extra $60 straight to the credit card company and felt, each time, like he was bailing out a sinking boat with a coffee mug. He was 25 when he hit the bottom. Not a dramatic bottom, no rock star wreckage, no headline moment. Just a Tuesday afternoon in February when he sat in his parked car in the grocery store lot for 40 minutes because he had run the numbers and realized that if he bought laundry detergent this week, he could not also pay the minimum on the MasterCard. He sat there in the cold, engine off, and cried. Not loudly. The kind of crying that happens behind your eyes, in your jaw, in the tendons of your hands on the steering wheel. He bought the laundry detergent. He missed the payment. The interest rate jumped to 29.99%. He found the book by accident. He was at the Akron Summit County Public Library, using the internet because he had canceled his home connection to save $47 a month, and someone had left a copy of a personal finance book face down on the table beside him. He didn't believe in those books. He had seen the covers. They felt like products sold to people who already had money. But he was waiting on a job application to upload, and it was taking too long, and so he opened it. He read for 2 hours. He missed his bus. It wasn't the book that changed him. It was one specific sentence. A single line that read, "You cannot negotiate your way out of a behavior problem." He read it and felt something move in his chest. Because he had been negotiating with himself every week, telling himself the situation was the economy, or the timing, or his salary, or his father leaving, or the dental bill. Anything but the 10,000 small decisions he still controlled. He went home and spent 4 hours building a spreadsheet. Not a budget, a war map. Every account, every balance, every interest rate, every minimum payment. He ranked them by rate, not by balance. He identified $340 a month he had been leaking in ways he had stopped noticing. A gym membership he hadn't used in 8 months, a streaming service, $80 in overdraft fees that had become so routine he had stopped wincing at them. He canceled everything. He made coffee at home in a secondhand percolator he bought for $3 at Goodwill. He called each credit card company and just asked, if they would reduce his interest rate. 2 of them said no. 1 said yes and dropped him from 24% to 17%. He thanked the representative like she had given him a loan. He applied for, and got, an entry-level bookkeeping role at a logistics company, $41,000 a year, and treated the raise as invisible income, routing every dollar of the difference directly toward the highest rate card. He paid off the first card in 14 months. He stood alone in his kitchen at midnight and read the zero balance statement on his phone and did not feel joy exactly. He felt something quieter, like a frequency that had been running underneath everything. A hum of dread he had learned to stop hearing went suddenly, cleanly silent. It took Marcus Webb 8 years. Not 5, not 3, 8. There was a medical bill in year 2 that cost him 4 months of progress. There was a layoff in year 5 that required him to pause everything and survive again, briefly, on a skeleton budget he had kept updated in a document because he knew that stability is not permanent and preparation is not pessimism. He moved from bookkeeping into financial operations, then into a controller role. He side consulted on weekends for small businesses who needed someone who understood cash flow not from a textbook, but from the specific terror of not having any. He never made more than $87,000 a year. He invested 34% of every paycheck from the moment the debt was gone. Index funds, boring and patient, the way his spreadsheet was patient. He bought a modest house in Talmadge, Ohio, 3 bedrooms, a yard with a serviceberry tree, and made extra mortgage payments the way he used to make extra credit card payments, quietly, deliberately, like building a wall 1 brick at a time. He retired at 38. Not to a beach, not to a yacht. He retired on a Thursday morning and walked out to the back porch with a cup of coffee and listened to the serviceberry tree move in the wind. He did not check his phone. He had nowhere to be. He was debt-free. He was early. He had started from $11 and a library card. If Marcus's story landed with you, if you recognized anything in those Tuesday afternoons, those missed calls, that silent car, then you already know this channel is for you. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And drop a comment below. What is the number you are working toward? Not a vague goal, an actual number. The people in this community will hold you to it. That is the deal here.